Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at Knob Creek 30th anniversary 18-year-olds. I almost said 30-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm guessing they don't have any 30-year-old stock, and I don't think you'd really want to drink it.
30-year-old bourbon? But that would just taste like wood, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, I've had 22, 25-year-old bourbons that were still pretty good, but those are few and far between.
All right, so Knob Creek's distillery that we love, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
50% ABV, 100 proof, and again, 18 years old, which is an old bourbon.
And extremely old for Jim Beam.
Yes.
You know, Buffalo Trace, they've got some standard stuff in the 20-year range.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven Hill, they dabble in that occasionally. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any Beam product going older than this. I'm sure somebody down in the comments will correct me. I'm sure it's happened. But I really can't think of it. 18 is a big statement for Beam.
18 years old is a big statement for bourbon, period.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, a lot of times when whiskeys get this old, bourbons,
Yeah.
they're not good. They're too woody.
Yeah, well, you got to think, I think in the world of bourbon, we kind of talk about that 25 to 30 is kind of a sweet spot where it hasn't gotten too bitter from the oak.
Are you talking about Scotch?
Scotch,
Yes.
yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so with bourbon, I think
12 to 16.
12 to 15 is generally that range. And so when you get to 18, you're kind of getting into like 35-year-old Scotch for a comparison.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, so that's where you hope somebody's picking the right barrels. I don't know how big a release this was. I do get the impression there's going to be bottles available, which tells me there's probably going to be batch variations. So guys, expect somebody else to tell you completely different notes because unfortunately they're not good about disclosing.
All right, yeah, what's going on?
Detail.
So what we do know is this is release number KC001, so I believe this is the first time they've released an 18-year-old, and the DSP is KY-230, so I'll give you a little bit of a look at that too if you want to freeze that and take a look at it. So that is what our version is, again, released here in 2022.
Yeah, but I bet you anything, Mike, it's going to be some laser code hidden somewhere I can't even see that's actually going to tell you which batch it was. Because that's exactly what happened on the 15s.
And we'll ring that too.
Time for another day, another story.
Yep. All right, so very nice, dark caramel whiskey, Dustin. Let's get to it, buddy.
I don't know if you mentioned, but 100 proof as well.
Yeah, 50%. I think I said 50% 100 proof. But if not, there it is.
Oh, man. All right away, man. This is fruity.
Shockingly. And not like the same fruit I normally get off bourbon.
No, I mean, it's really fruity. I can't, it's almost like, if you want like a marmalade or something, like it's like a jammy, like...
Yeah, it's some type of smashed fruit.
It's not a distinct, like, fruit even. It's like almost like some kind of sweet custard thing that's meant to be fruity, like a pie filling.
Yeah, it's almost like apples without any cinnamon. Maybe a little bit of like pear. It's sort of plain, but it does have a little bit of wood spice that kind of goes along with it. With a beautiful oak note on this thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, like nice dusty, like leather oak.
And not too furniture polishes, because a lot of times when I get that note on old bourbon, it comes with a furniture polish note.
I like that, but it's not here. You're right.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's not a terrible note, but it isn't present with this.
Yeah, slightly peanutty, as you tend to get with Beam in that area. I mean, almost, I want to kind of say salty wood.
I always want to say, again, every time. You're right, Beam does come off that way, but I always think the same. In this particular one, I just think peanut shells on the floor. They had 5 guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really nailing the caramel notes here. Deep, dark, drizzled caramel, aged, or just, it's been sitting in grandma's basement too long next to it in like a nice, I don't know, some kind of wooden cabinet.
Yeah, cedar.
I don't know about cedar, man. I'm thinking more of like...
A walnut?
Walnut or oak, yeah. Maybe even cherry.
I can see both of them.
It's a nice cabinet.
Mm-hmm. But the marmalade's just in a glass like next to you. It doesn't like overpower the experience. Like it's just... And that's what's kind of unique about this one. Okay. Usually with bourbons, 1 or 2 things will kind of overpower the experience. It's not often with bourbons that you get 5 or 6 kind of 15% of the experience type of things.
Yeah, so I'm actually thinking this might be a Capita bourbon. And the reason I'm saying that, Mike, is for me to pick up the vanilla notes, I got to kind of bring my nose a little bit out of the glass, kind of bob in and out just for that very up front. There's a nice vanilla there, but it's hidden.
Well, again, this is a bunch of pieces. Like nothing's really more than 20% of the experience, anything, which is rare for a bourbon.
Now I am getting some distinct red apple note coming through. And it's fresh cut red apple. It's
I was say skin.
Yeah. I mean, it's wet. Oh man. Really,
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Really, what impresses me here is because I had the 15. I got lucky. I bought 3 really good bottles. Well, I got about 2 good bottles, and a third one I hope is good. I have no idea. I haven't opened it yet.
Well, let's assume we made good decisions. But you were saying?
Well, I bought 2 at the same store, so I think one's good, the other one's good. Anyway, that one it was well known that there was batch variation where some batches were super oaky. So my concern was 3 more years. Mm-hmm. How are they going to pull it off? And man, on the nose, they did it.
Yeah, they sure did. This is a extremely complex nose for a bourbon and whiskey, and I got to tell you, when you picked this up, I was interested in taste it, but I thought, well, that 18, that could be an oaky mess.
I didn't even mention the tobacco notes, which are kind of common and obvious in bourbon, but on old bourbons. But man, they're there beautifully.
You're right.
This is on the nose. It's dried barn tobacco.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, this is definitely a dry finish on the nose, a little bit more creamy, moist, sugary up front, fruits and other elements. Nice experience actually as you kind of nose into it, as you kind of dig deeper. It gets darker, older, dustier.
You're right. That peanut shell is almost going to like peppered peanut shell, as opposed to just the salt. Yeah, one of the more complex Knob Creeks I've ever had. I've had quite a few Knob Creeks. You're a fan of it. Buddy of ours, Adam's a fan of the Knob Creeks. I've had 12-year-old, 14-year-old. I mean, I've had a lot of good older Knob Creeks. Ooh. And this is a solid offering. Let me pick it up with the palate.
So the first thing I just got to tell everybody is they nailed the Knob Creek profile. They didn't deviate from that classic Knob Creek profile. Which has that nice fruity elements up front, good sweetness, goes into kind of dusty, peanutty kind of notes, has a little bit of oak on it. That's all there. And what really gets interesting is up front you start getting this experience where you're thinking it's going to get darker and too oaky, too bitter, too salty, and then it actually goes back to that kind of like marmalade, kind of jammy fruitiness, kind of almost in like that late mid palate, and then the finish goes into nice oak, leather, very balanced. Nothing is out of place here. Has those really old bourbon notes too, man. I mean, again, the whole this is an experience whiskey as much as it is a nice flavor whiskey.
So again, I'll say a lot going on with this one. Mm-hmm. It's drier on the palate. You're getting those peanut shells. You're getting some of your traditional, what I get from Knob Creek, but as soon as you swallow, man, big wallop of caramel, it gets very savory at that point. And then just like you said, just really, I hate to say it this way, but kind of just moistens your mouth and makes you want more. I mean, the caramel is super strong initially, and then just bam, just like a Highland Park.
Then it moistens it back out.
Like a Highland Park, it just comes right back. Okay, so, I mean, oak, spice, I mean, all those things, vanilla, I mean, all those things are right there. Really good sweetness. The caramel, right when you first swallowed, that kind of came to a swell and kind of backed off. And it like you said, took you to a danger zone and then backed off right then. It kind of swelled caramel and then instantly kind of went like burnt caramel and just backed off and went sweet and then a nice oak, nice vanilla. Transitions. You don't often get that in a bourbon. Especially like an old one like this too. So a lot more impressive as far as what's going on with this one. Now, the one thing I'll say that's a negative is none of the flavors are amazing. I have been impressed by this whiskey both times I've sipped on it, just simply because how many things were going on with the bourbon and the fact that it just wasn't an oak bomb at 18 years old. But am I super impressed with any of the notes on this? They're all nice. Nothing is beautiful or spectacular. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I'm at with the palate on this. Good liquor.
I agree with you. Yeah, there's no wow factor here. It didn't quite reach the depths. I think being at 100 proof is a good proof, especially on older bourbon. But I do think it kind of missed the spot here a little bit there.
I don't know if it's much as about ABV, is it's just about the flavors it's imparting. You could put this at 60 and maybe it would take the caramel or the burnt caramel note and kind of amplify it, or some type of maybe one of the peanut notes or the sweetness, but so what?
For me, sometimes though, when it gets a little higher, it has a creaminess. That sort of helps from that like kind of bitterness that was building up there from being as bitter.
Could be, yeah.
That's my guess. I'll tell you what, right now, Mike, a little bit of water. I'm getting more like the walnut, and I'm getting a lot more vanilla all of a sudden.
I will say this with water, instantly, you're right. The nut, whatever the nuttiness is, I say it's peanut shell. It is instantly stronger, but also a burnt caramel note and a charred oak note is coming up where I didn't really get the charred oak note before, but it is incredibly obvious to me now.
As you dig deeper, I get so up front I get a little walnut. I get like vanilla walnut. As I dig deeper, more peanut, and then you're right. Charred oak is definitely coming through.
It's getting drier on the nose. It's almost sashaying to like a Scotch territory as far as the dryness on the nose. If it wasn't for that caramel sharp sweetness, I would almost think.
Caramel and vanilla are really well integrated now. Like they're both playing. I get both of them, but they're like together.
I haven't talked about the vanilla in this enough. I keep saying caramel, but you're right. There is an interlaced vanilla in that caramel that I should have mentioned.
I didn't get it without the water really much. I got just a little, very little on the top. Like at the top of the glass right here, I got vanilla. I went into the glass, vanilla left.
But you know what's weird about that note is the caramel, I keep saying the caramel note kind of, as soon as you swallowed, and also on certain parts of the nose, the caramel note swells. It's the only real note that swells in this whiskey for me. And then instantly, and you're right, there is vanilla in it, and then instantly, whatever, it goes to I want to say a burnt note or a char note.
Yeah. And
then it's just gone. And then almost you have to reset it again. And it won't go any further. Like it'll take you to a certain spot and then it's done.
Yeah,
That's so strange.
I will say this, the fruit has also subsided here drastically. I don't really get the fruit like I did before.
When I put water in it, the fruit completely disappeared.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing because, truth be told, traditional bourbon is vanilla caramel oak. And that's really what you got here in very nice proportions.
Agreed. But as I said a couple times on this review, I was surprised how many things were going on this particular whiskey. I think that's its strength. So, why on the nose, simplified it and helped you focus on it 4 or 5 flavors, I would definitely prefer this without water and give me the 7 or 8 flavors I was getting before. What about on the palate?
Yeah, water didn't help.
It really does with bourbons.
No, yeah, you've got to have a big
ABV.
High ABV. Brought the oak out a little bit. It brought the vanilla caramel forward, killed the fruits, and it really kind of added a little more astringency and bitterness. I still wouldn't call this over-oaked, but it definitely is more now oak forward with a little more bitterness than I'd prefer. The finish, I do still get that kind of like, it's a transition to a different kind of oak flavor, and with some nuttiness. Again, I want to say like oaky, walnut, and a little bit of spice. Still really nice. I still like it, but definitely prefer this one neat.
Okay, so I still like it with water. As you say, I want to say that first because I'm going to tear it apart from here on forward. It's still enjoyable with water, but what you took it from compared to what you just did to it, it's like saying, oh, well, that guy can run a 10-minute mile. He's not in bad shape, but he used to be.
He used to run a 5.5.
Right, he used to be an NBA All-Star.
Yeah.
Like, he fell a long way to get to this point. That's my point. You fell a long way to get to this point. And you're right. The oak note went from interesting and nice to bitter and unpleasant.
Maybe I just put 1 drop too many or so in there.
Yeah, so I definitely would prefer this. Plus, it thinned out the water experience completely. It oversimplified it where it took away the fruits, and it left an oak note that really... You know what did the oak note? It turned the lights on at 3 o'clock in the morning at the bar.
Yeah.
10 minutes earlier, when I was talking to you, guy or girl,
yeah,
you sounded better. You looked better. But now the lights are on. It's 3 in the morning.
The music kicked off. Journey ended. Kicked off. Yeah. Closing time just kicked off. Lights went on.
I'm looking at that carpet that hasn't been changed in 32 years.
Yeah.
And none are better off than they were 10 minutes
ago.
Now
you're noticing somebody who's been sweating all night.
Yes.
Had a few too many drinks.
That is what you did with this whiskey. Putting water in this whiskey is turning on the lights at the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, I did put a little too much water.
You know what I mean by that?
Oh, 100%. I'm with you.
That helps no one.
No.
That's what I mean by that.
No, it doesn't.
That helps no one.
No. You are not better looking with lights after 3 hours of drinking in a bar.
Never. Putting
I
water
don't
in
care how
this.
pretty you are.
Putting water in this is turning on the lights at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I did. I think I may have overwatered because I got a little bit, maybe just a hair smaller pour than I thought I had when I added the water.
You got it?
Yeah, it's a little better now with a little drop extra. But yeah, this is a whiskey to drink neat. Maybe you put one tiny little micro drop in here just once to try it out. I would put so little water in here though, Mike.
Yeah,
it just doesn't do anything good.
Yeah, drop at a time if you want to try it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
You touch the glass and you let that one little thing fall off, and that's it.
Yeah, it took a very interesting whiskey that I thought its strength was the fact that it did a lot of things. Nothing spectacular, but it did a lot of things that made it interesting, and turned it into a whiskey that was It was very simple and did a few things that weren't very nice, let alone interesting. Anyway, Dustin, where are you as far as whiskey score on this one? Okay.
So I think I'm going to kind of take what you just said there, Mike. Mm-hmm. What this is a very well aged, although I don't get ultra aged special notes.
Other than the tobacco note.
Well, I get that sometimes on 14, 15-year-olds, even 12 sometimes.
Yep, my bad.
So I don't get some of those phenomenal notes that you pick up when you start talking, the Rhetoric 22 we had where you got just incredible sweetness that came in. This doesn't have like some of like the Van Winkles that have some really nice, again, vanilla notes. It doesn't have Kentucky's like just, oh my God, wow factor.
Score.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. What this is a very well put together, obviously old whiskey that doesn't jump out at anything. And for that, Mike, I'm going to give it an 88. It's a bit high, but I just really like what they're doing here and the overall package.
Okay. I'm going to give you my score and then tell you why. 86. Here's why. This is a good age, and this had some complex things going on. I will want to drink this whiskey again. So it's not a whiskey that I never want to have again, okay? I want it just because I want to pick out notes because it'll be a challenging whiskey and it's a unique whiskey to drink, not because I was blown away by any aspect of the whiskey. Mm-hmm. I think it's done well for an 18-year-old bourbon, but that doesn't mean it's done well as far as an overall great smelling, tasting whiskey experience.
Yeah.
But I will say this about this whiskey. It is one of the more complex bourbons I've ever had, which makes me think I'm a little bit tough on it. Okay, so this is a rare time I'm going to change midstream. I'm going to give it an 87.
Okay.
Because it is an interesting bourbon because it does do a few things very well. Now, having said that, you're right, it doesn't come off old. If you'd have told me this was a 12-year-old whiskey, I'd have believed you. 14-year-old bourbon, I'd have believed you. You know what I mean? To me, this doesn't scream 18 years old. To me, the only thing impressive about this age statement is the fact they didn't over oak and destroy it. Nothing else about that age statement comes off in the whiskey experience.
Yep.
Fair enough?
I'll agree with you. I was actually 87, 88. So
Yeah, no.
87, you're right there in my ballpark.
Yeah.
If you'd said 86, I get it because I don't know that you like certain notes in this whiskey as much as I do.
That's
we
true.
we tend to deviate on certain spice notes and oak notes and
Agreed.
in general. So
Yes.
So guys, I think
Those are our thoughts. Yeah.
The question I think really comes into, Mike, this, the 15-year, the 12-year that they put out, and we've shockingly not brought up the people. They did a 12 cask strength.
Yeah, we should probably get that.
That was a really good.
Yeah, we should bring more Knob Creeks. There are some 14
Yeah.
single barrels and things that I really do like that we have access to. But anyway, those are our thoughts on the whiskey. We're also bringing the 15 here at some point. But I'd like to know if you guys had a chance to get your hands on this, which just released like in the last few weeks.
Yeah, this is
Like,
new.
yeah, I think at the time we're releasing in September of 2020. It was within 30 days.
Just heads up, about 180s, about what retail should be here. So I think I paid 170 something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's under 200 out the door. Value, I would say medium low. I think the age statement justifies it,
Agreed.
but I think the overall profile, maybe this is a little pricey.
Be expected to be more impressed by the stats of this whiskey than the actual substance of this whiskey.
But hey, special release.
Cool.
Cool box. Also,
Absolutely.
it's a new bottle. I don't know if this is just for the 18 or this is going to become their
Beautiful
new standard.
presentation.
I actually really like the new bottle.
From the box, as soon as you brought over here that and the
I
15,
don't know if you guys kind of can pick up, but like they've kind of like curved it and added like some dimples. It's
it's an attractive packaging.
although I gotta say, it doesn't feel great in the hand.
It makes me think, though, with the wooden box and everything, it makes you think whiskey and cigars. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very...
this would be good with a cigar.
It would be. A very masculine, rustic-looking
Yeah.
packaging and everything else like that. Anyway, talk about packaging again. Anyway, those are our thoughts on the whiskey. If you guys had a chance to try this one, I know it's really new, but video stay up there for a long time,
Yeah.
Dustin. You never know. If you guys are watching this sometime later than 2020 in September or October, let us know what you guys think if you had a chance to get to try this one. And Dustin, until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy, dusty bourbon drinking.
There we go.